You already know something is off. You just can't name it yet. You meet her. She's striking. There's something magnetic about her, something that pulls at you before she even speaks. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice says, pay attention. Most men don't listen to that voice. This video is about learning to listen, not to judge her, not to fear her, to see her clearly without the fog that attraction creates. Here is what nobody in this conversation will say out loud. Tattoos are not the problem. Tattoos are the evidence. They are a record. A permanent record of decisions made at specific moments, under specific emotional conditions. And those moments reveal something about how a person moves through the world, how she handles pain, how she processes change, how she relates to permanence. Carl Jung spent his life studying what people carry but refused to look at. He called it the shadow, the parts of a person they cannot face. And he said something that most people hear but don't actually absorb. He said, what you don't make conscious will run your life, and you will call it fate. Think about that for a moment. If she has never looked at what drove her to those permanent marks, if she has never sat with what was happening inside, that energy doesn't disappear. It moves. It flows into the next relationship. And the one after that, you become the next place it lands. That is not a judgment. That is psychology. Now, before we go any further, you need to understand what this video is actually about. This is not a video about whether to date women with tattoos. That question is too small. It misses the point completely. This is a video about a specific set of psychological patterns. Patterns that show up in how permanent decisions get made. Patterns that repeat in relationships. Patterns that most men see only after they've paid for them. The tattoos are just the window. What matters is what you see through it. There's a concept from Ernest Becker, a thinker who spent his life studying the deepest forces that drive behavior. Becker argued that most of what people do comes from one place. The terror of disappearing. The fear that they don't matter, that they will be forgotten. He said people build what he called immortality projects. Ways of proving they are real. Ways of leaving a mark on the world before the world erases them. Some people build businesses, some have children. Some create art, and some people write on their bodies. This is not weakness. Becker didn't frame it as weakness. He framed it as the most human thing there is, the attempt to say, I was here. I mattered. This happened to me and I survived it. When you look at her tattoos through that lens, you stop seeing decoration. You start seeing the story underneath. The question is not whether she has that story. Everyone does. The question is whether she has faced it, or just decorated it. Here's the framework that will guide this entire video. It has 3 parts. The first part is called the signal. Every permanent decision leaves a signal about a person's internal architecture. Their relationship with impulse. Their relationship with consequence. Their relationship with pain. The second part is called the pattern. Signals don't stand alone. They form patterns. And patterns in how someone handles their own life will become patterns in how they handle yours. The third part is called the mirror. This is the part most men skip entirely. Because the hardest question is never about her. It's about why you keep finding yourself in the same place, with different versions of the same woman, confused about what keeps going wrong. By the time this video ends, you will have all 3 parts. But here's the price of admission. You have to be willing to be honest, not just about her, about yourself. About what you're actually attracted to when you think nobody is watching. About what you tolerate and call it love. About what you ignore and call it giving someone a chance. Nietzsche said it plainly. He said most people avoid truth not because it's hidden, but because it hurts to look at it. This video is going to ask you to look. The patterns we will examine are real. They are drawn from the deepest well of human psychology. And once you see them, you will not be able to unsee them. That is the point. Let's begin.
Every choice leaves a fingerprint. Not the choice itself. The conditions under which it was made. Think about the last time you made a truly permanent decision. Not what you had for lunch. Not what show to watch. A decision with no takebacks. How did you approach it? Did you sit with it? Sleep on it? Think through what it would mean 5 years from now. Most people do. For permanent things. But some people don't. And that gap, between people who treat permanence seriously and people who don't, tells you something fundamental about how their mind works. Freud called this the pleasure principle. The idea that part of the human mind operates on one simple rule. Feel good now, deal with consequences later. He said every person carries this drive. But he also said maturity, real psychological maturity, is learning to override it, to delay, to consider, to choose the future over the moment. A tattoo is a permanent decision, by definition. So when a permanent decision is made in an emotional peak, during a breakup, after a loss, in the middle of a rebellion, at the height of a feeling that won't last, what is that telling you? It is telling you how much weight that person gives to the future when the present is screaming. This is pattern 1, emotion as authority. Some people let their feelings make their permanent decisions. Not just tattoos. Everything. Jobs. Relationships. Financial choices. The pattern is consistent because it comes from inside, not outside. From how they were taught, or never taught, to sit with discomfort before acting on it. Now, here is where most men make the first mistake. They see one tattoo and they relax. They say, it's just one. It doesn't mean anything. And they might be right. One impulsive decision at 20 does not define a life. But look at the full picture. How many are there? When did they happen? Do they tell a story of growth, or a story of running? Is each one a chapter in a life that's moving forward? Or is each one a reaction to something that hurt? Albert Camus wrote about what he called the absurd, the gap between what humans want from life and what life actually gives them. He said some people respond to that gap by creating meaning, by building, by choosing, and some people respond by disappearing into sensation, into intensity, into the next feeling that makes the gap stop hurting for a while. The tattoo is not the problem. The relationship with pain is what you're reading. This is pattern 2, pain as a tool for identity. There is a subset of people, and this is documented across psychology, not just philosophy, who have learned to use physical pain as a way of feeling real, of feeling present, of converting internal chaos into something external and controlled. The needle hurts, but the hurt is chosen, and chosen pain feels safer than the unchosen kind. Peter Zaff, a thinker most people have never heard of, argued that human consciousness is too large for the life it has to live in, that we feel too much, think too much, carry too much. And so we develop what he called anchoring mechanisms, ways of tying ourselves to something solid so we don't drown in the vastness of our own awareness. For some people, the body becomes that anchor. Marking it becomes the way they say, I exist. This is real. I was here when this happened. That is not pathology. That is humanity at its most raw. But here is the critical question you need to ask. Has she moved through that pain? Or is she still living inside it? There is a version of this story that ends in growth. A woman who went through something genuinely hard, marked it, processed it, and came out the other side with more wisdom than she had before. That woman's tattoos are chapters of a closed book. She can show you the cover without reopening the wound. There is another version. A woman whose tattoos are not chapters, they are symptoms. Still active. Still bleeding quietly into everything around her. You will know the difference not by what she says, by what she does when the topic comes up. Does she tell the story with distance? With something close to peace? Or does her whole body change? Does the room get tighter? Does she get louder or colder or suddenly very careful? Watch that. Not her words. Her body. Schopenhauer said the will, the real force driving a person, cannot hide. It shows through the cracks in the performance, in the moments between sentences, in the eyes when the mask slips. You are not looking at her tattoos. You are looking at her relationship with her own history. That is what pattern 2 is measuring. We are not done with the signals yet. The next one is the one men miss most consistently, because it looks like confidence. It presents itself as strength. And it is sometimes. But sometimes it is the most dangerous pattern of all.